Well, welcome back. I am really excited about today because we're talking about plants, and I have this little tray, but no, you can't see it yet. Okay, I am going to be talking about today the best plants to attach to a rock with little rubber bands. These little tiny, wait, can you see these? See the little tiny, oh, you can't see that. See the little tiny black rubber bands that come, they are for hair. They're called Polybands, and I'm going to attach the video I did for attaching. I've done so many crazy hacks. I'll just put them down below, of how many different ways, crazy ways, and frequently with hair products, go figure, that you can use to attach your plants. And this is super simple, and you may not have thought about what plants you can attach with a rubber band and to a rock. It makes it super simple to scape your tank, especially if you have a lot of these plants. You can scape it outside your tank and then just drop the rocks in. And a lot of big benefits for this, because you can put your plants exactly where you want them without them floating away, because some of these plants are kind of like stinkers. So let's get to it. I think I have 5 or 6 different plants that I'm going to suggest attach them to a rock. All right. I'm gonna start off with, so I can put him back in the tank because he's drying up. The first one, which we all know about, is Anubis, especially Anubis Nana Petite. He's really tiny. He's super tiny. Just take a little rubber band, wrap it around the rock. What I like to do is, and these rocks work out great. You probably have a bunch of them laying around. These have little edges that'll kind of help hold the rubber band in place. The round rocks tend to, allow the rubber band to slip off. But you hold on the little Anubis like that, and then with the other hand, take the rubber band and just wrap it around like so. See? That's all you need. Of course, I probably could have done a better job. He's got to go up down here. There we go. There, just like that. And he's attached. And the great thing about this, especially with Anubis and a rock like this that has different sides, you can choose where you put the rubber band, and you probably won't even see the rubber band at all. All you'll see is the little tiny Anubis. This was your tank. All you'll see is the little tiny Anubis peeking from behind a rock. Really cool. All right, let's go back to my tray of goodies. Now, some of these might be a little bit less obvious, but you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna leave the least obvious to the end. Then you have to watch the whole video. I know, you don't really have to. You can just fast forward to the end, I suppose. All right, the next one would be any kind of mosses. Java moss, Christmas moss, any of them. Just take a rubber band around your rock. There's my rubber band around the rock. Slide in a bunch of moss, however much you want. And the great thing about mosses is they'll start to attach themselves and kind of climb around anything that's around it. Say you have manzanita branches, any other kind of branches, driftwood, and they'll start crawling, which is really kind of cool. It adds a very cool dimension and texture to your tank. And that's super simple, because if you've ever seen these, they can go flying around your tank and kind of make your tank look a little untidy and messy. The next one I am extra excited about, because word on the street, like I told you in another video, word on the street, moss balls are back. That's right, they've gotten the okay from Canada. I think that's where they come from. And they're gonna be back at pet stores and wherever you used to get them, probably in no time at all. But if you have some left over that were not contaminated, which that's what I have, really excited about that I have these still to play with, why not attach it to a rock? This one, the same thing. And the great thing about moss balls is they're very dark. You can't see the rubber band at all. And if you even bury your rock, or this is the color of your substrate or the color of the rest of your rocks, whatever, it's gonna look just great. And you can kind of mold them. You can mold them up around the rubber band. Just remember, with moss balls, you definitely want to take these out every so often. Usually like once a month, I'll take my moss balls out and then you just take the rubber band off. You squeeze your moss ball to kind of clean it under fresh water, and it kind of gives it a break from cleaning all the stuff from your tank. And if you have moss balls and you have moss balls kind of tumbleweeding around your tank like I do, then you'll appreciate this hack. Oh, and the other great thing is if you do what I do with moss balls, sometimes I do not leave them as a round, tidy little ball. I flatten them out, which you can do. You can totally do that. It doesn't hurt them at all. You can kind of flatten them out to a pancake and form them around your rock, which will look really kind of cool. Then it still makes them look like a moss ball, but like I said, they're not going to be moving anywhere. All right, now we're working our way to the little bit less obvious choices. Subwassertang. Have you ever put Subwassertang into your tank and it goes everywhere? Some tanks, it behaves very nicely. Other tanks, like my farm tank, I put Subwassertang in there and now it's everywhere. Little pieces everywhere. Well, not with this trick. Put a blob underneath a rubber band it to your little rock, and it in no time will make a nice little mound and it will stay where you put it. This one's done really well. I've had it attached to a rock for a month or two and it stayed put, and it's even getting a little taller. Now, if you just saw my video, I did a Scape on an Awase, it was my Awase inspired Scape on a 14-gallon bow front, and I used hydrocodal, which is a really cool plant that you can just kind of put a rock over it, like get a little mass of it, put a rock holding some of it down. You don't have to attach it, you don't have to plant it. The great thing about that plant is that wherever you put it, as long as you're kind of holding it there, it will eventually start creeping around wherever it's on, and then it starts growing upwards. It's just a super cool plant. This one, take a little bunch of it and attach it to a rock. Then it'll stay right where you want it. You can do this outside of the tank, which makes it super simple, because would you rather try to mess around with a little plant, trying to get it in there while your tank is full, or if your tank isn't full of water yet, it may dislodge it after you add the water? Not with this trick. Attach it to a rock and then just drop the rock in. And then what you want to do is, if this is the rock that you have in your Scape, or if you're using dragonstone, grab a little piece of dragonstone or whatever other ones that you're using, and then if you have it attached that way, you can use other rocks to kind of cover that rubber band. And there you go. Really cool. Now for my last suggestion, which plant you should attach to a rock with these really cool rubber bands, is Riccia. Riccia flutans, which is usually found as a floating plant. A lot of these other ones, you just float in your tank. You just chuck it in and it just kind of floats around, or it winds up landing somewhere. This one is no different because that's the same thing it does. But like some of these other ones, it can break off into little pieces and float around everywhere on your tank. And if you do have Riccia floating in your tank, it is also a magnet for other floating plants. I unfortunately had Riccia in with another tank that got duckweed in there and giant duckweed, and yep, you guessed it, it became a mass of floating
deadly duckweed.
It's not deadly, but you know what I mean. A big mound of duckweed. Ugh. So if you attach it to a rock and have this Riccia down on the bottom of your tank, it's not going to attract duckweed like that, because duckweed's way up at the top of your tank. And if you've ever looked at Riccia, it's got a fascinating little texture. Really adorable. And it'll do the same thing. It'll start to mound and look really cool. So I hope you liked the video. I think this is a great hack. It's helped me out in a number of situations, and it can help you really stretch the plants that you have. Because once you get a little bit of these plants, if you've noticed before, you can get, after no time at all, you will have a lot more of this plant. So you can, if you attach them to rocks, you can strategically put them around your tank and make it look like you have a whole lot more plants than you really do by just dividing them up, attaching them to rocks, and they stay nice and tidy. And I will, if I can find this on Amazon, I will link it for you, but I just got these, I think at the grocery store or Walmart or something. You can use any rubber bands, obviously. I've used clear orthodontic rubber bands because they are also super tiny if you're using like manzanita. But these are really great. Just as before I go here, I don't think I said this, but I'm gonna say it now. These are really great because they are really, oh, how do I show it? Really stretchy, which works out really great when you're trying to get it around a rock and you want it to also, you know, maintain the shape around the rock and hold your plant tight, but not too tight. So hopefully you like the video and I hope it helps you. Let me know, have you ever used these particular rubber bands, or what do you prefer to attach your plants with? Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one.